Hello and welcome to Good Games Spawn Point, the show for younger gamers by gamers. I'm Bajo.
And I'm Hex.
And I am D.A.R.R.E.N, data analysing robot for the ruthless extermination of noobs.
Say, Darren, before we get on with the show, are you any good at reading graphs?
Affirmative.
Could you have an analysation of this one, please?
Oh, I'd be delighted. Let's see. The spawnlings were asked a question in an online poll. Over 4,000 replied with an 89% affirmative and 11% negative. A statistically significant result in the positive.
And what, pray tell, was the question, Darren?
Should Darren let Bajo and Hex into his robot cave?
Yes. Well, Darren, I think it's pretty clear the Spawn want you to let us into your Darren cave.
Very well.
Cool, okay.
Really?
This way, come on. This way. Deactivating force. Deactivated. There you go. Mind your heads.
Push it.
Get out of me! Whoa!
And reactivating force. Deactivated.
What?
Darren!
No, let us out!
Darren!
Right, better get on with things. Much later in the show, Hex and I will bring you our thoughts on CreaVures. It's a puzzle platformer set in a magical forest.
I thought CreaVures was more of
I said later, Hex. But first, let's take a look at Glee Karaoke Revolution for the Wii.
I only really need you tonight. Forever's going to start tonight. Once upon a time there was light in my life. Now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can say. Total eclipse of the heart.
Oh, please tell me this isn't happening.
I'm afraid it is.
The copy I have here is Volume 2 of the karaoke game based on the massively successful television series Glee. On this volume, you'll find songs taken from the first season of the show. Just like that other singing game, SingStar, you sing along to songs from Glee, trying your best to hit and hold the right notes so that you can get a high score.
Where can I find a woman like that, like Jesse's girl?
I thought the choice of songs were as okay, but there's only 18 of them, whereas there were over 30 in the first volume. That being said, I did enjoy Over the Rainbow.
Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why them, oh why can't I?
You can play alone or with a friend. There's no story at all, but there is a scrapbook mode where you have to meet certain criteria, like a high score or a running streak, to get an unlockable prize.
I've toured around the world, from London to the Bay. It's hammer go hammer MC hammer yo hammer, and the rest can go and play. Can't touch this.
It's a thinly disguised way of making you play the same 18 songs over and over. And then if you do manage to meet all the criteria, you get this. That's right, a sticker, which will provide you with countless hours of fun as you move it about in your scrapbook.
Darren, are you being sarcastic? Because that sounds really boring.
I was, and it is. Another thing I found frustrating is that the Glee versions of these songs are all rather short. I was just getting into Total Eclipse of the Heart and then it was all over.
Now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can do. Total eclipse of the heart. Turn around, bright eyes.
Is that it?
Well, Darren, what's your final score?
This game is really only for big fans of Glee, which, admittedly, there are many. But I would suggest that the Spawn should choose You Sing over this, as you get a better choice of full-length songs. And there's more of them. I'm giving Glee Karaoke Revolution 5 rubber chickens.
Great job, Darren, but can you please let us out now? It's time for our Good Game.
Yeah, and I really need to use the bathroom, Darren.
Negative.
I can hold it.
Negative. Deactivating force field.
Oh, thank you.
Deactivated. That's a relief.
Oh!
Affirmative.
You know what, Hex?
What?
I really love this part of the show, helping the spawnlings with their gaming troubles, passing on my vast knowledge and experience of games to the younger generation.
And their mums.
Yeah.
And their mums, like Mother Von from our nation's capital.
Hyrule.
No, Canberra.
Can what now?
Dear Hex and Bajo, first-time caller, long-time viewer. Love both your shows, GG and GGSP. My kids and husband watch religiously and poke fun at their mum for being what they call a noob. Asking a big favour here, could you please inform my children and my husband that I am indeed not a noob? In fact, my first gaming experience was during the 1980s when I played Wizard of War on the Commodore 64. I was addicted to it and finished the game many times in its entirety. Many thanks for your assistance in rectifying this. I hope they realise their gaming heritage and I might finally get some respect around this place.
Hey, Mother Von, and thanks for writing in. This is directed at your children and husband. Mother Von is certainly not a noob.
Wizard of War in its day was a tricky game to finish and certainly not easy. And besides that, anyone who's been gaming for over 20 years deserves massive respect.
Mother Von, this week you are officially crowned Australia's most awesome gamer.
Yes.
We don't have a crown to give you though. Next up, this from Louis in Victoria. Canberra. Dear Bajo and Hex, I am 12 years old. Do you think that I should watch Good Game or watch your other show, Good Game Spawn Point, for younger gamers? I would really like it if you answer because I really want to know. From Louis.
Hey Louis, well, as a 12-year-old, you should watch Spawn Point. Some of the games we feature on Good Game would be okay for you to watch too, but sometimes we do feature games that are M-rated or MA15+, and these are for adults or older teenagers only.
If you are really keen on checking out Good Game, then you can ask a grown-up to watch it first to make sure there's nothing in it that they'd rather you didn't see. You can always do this on our website or on iView.
Next up, oh, it's Heidi from Campbelltown.
Canberra.
Can you tell me if you could buy Xbox 360 games from other countries and play it on an Xbox from Australia? Please! Tricky answer to that question, Heidi, as it's sometimes yes and sometimes no.
You really do need to check the individual game you're interested in. A search online for the title and the words region compatibility should give you that information.
As a more general rule, games from PAL territories, that's most of Europe and New Zealand, should work here. Games from NTSC territories like Japan and USA probably won't.
What are PAL and NTSC, Hex?
Well, it's technical stuff to do with how many frames per second are transmitted and the number of lines in the image. PAL gives a better picture and it's the system we use here in Australia.
Yeah, you got the smarts today, Hex. Actually, I already knew I was just saying it like that, so
Yeah,
you
sure.
tell them. Moving on to this from Hayden in Toowoomba.
You don't know anything.
Canberra. Hello, Good Game Spawn Point. My name is Hayden. I was just wondering, is there a Narnia game? P.S. Hex, you are awesome, and Darren is a noob. Hello, Hayden. And the answer is yes, sort of. Back in 2005, there was a game based on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe called The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
It's pretty old now and you'd need a last generation console to play it. A PlayStation 2, original Xbox, or a GameCube. But it was a pretty good game, especially for a game based on a movie, which usually equals a rubbish game.
Unfortunately, the game tie-in to the Prince Caspian movie was just that. Rubbish. It was supposed to be an action-adventure game, but was actually dull and repetitive.
And unfortunately, the console version of The Voyage of the Dawn Treader was cancelled, although they did release a mobile version, which we haven't played, so we can't really say much about it.
That's right. There are a few free Flash games. A search for Narnia games on the internet should find them, but as you can see, they're not that great.
It's a shame, and maybe you should just stick to the books and the movies when it comes to Narnia, Hayden. Next is this question from Adarsh in Newcastle.
Books?
I just wanted to know an important question. Who is the noob? Who is the average person? And who is the ruler? Darren, Bajo, or Hex? Please tell me! Oh, well, we couldn't possibly answer that, Adarsh. I mean, we're all just friends trying to make the best show we can. And that's all we have time for today. If you have a question for us, Spawn Point, then send it in to us here. So, back to the studio.
All right, let's go. Oh, I just need to... Dear Adarsh, I am your ruler, Bajo. And Hex, well, I'll get to her in a moment, but let's start about Darren. Gotta warm up my fingers for this one. What a massive noob. Oh my god, I can't believe he's such a noob. He thinks he doesn't even know how to play games. He can't even move his hands, doing imposable thumbs.
Oh, welcome back, Hex. What happened to Bajo?
I think he's just cleaning up the Ask Good Game desk, but let's get on with this review.
Affirmative.
The Steam download CreaVures is a puzzle platformer set in a magical forest, lit with a bioluminescence that gives it a feel of something out of Avatar. But the light in the forest is dying. You'll be controlling a set of 5 mythical creatures who are trying to make their way through the forest to collect light to bring it back to life.
There are 5 stages in the game, and each stage has 3 levels. A new CreaVure is introduced in each stage, each equipped with its own set of special abilities, which you'll be using to collect balls of light and help one another through the forest.
Your first CreaVure, Bitey, can munch onto objects to help make his way across chasms, and he has a long tail that other CreaVures can use as a rope to swing on when the gap is too wide. And these are the sorts of cooperative actions that you'll need to use to help get both CreaVures through the level. Other CreaVures like Zappy can create electrical sparks to charge light mushrooms to light the way. Others have spikes that can be shot or used as a climbing tool to scale walls and trees with. Some can break through stone, and one can glide. Nearly all the CreaVures have offensive abilities too, which you'll need to use to scare off beasties that are trying to hamper your progress. It's all about trying to clear the way for your companion or create a path so that you can both get through.
I thought the CreaVures themselves were interesting and very well animated.
I thought so too, Darren. I like how they all had their own unique personalities and characteristics, and when you both arrived at a checkpoint, they'd do a little dance. It was really cute.
We played this game on noob difficulty.
You mean normal difficulty?
No, Hex, I don't. There are 3 difficulty settings, the lowest being normal, and I'm afraid it was far too easy. The developers must have mistaken their players for noobs. The game isn't very long, so if you don't choose one of the harder difficulty settings, the whole thing will be over far too quickly.
I agree, Darren. It was a bit too easy, and not only that, but the first few levels were quite simple and repetitive. New CreaVures and game mechanics were introduced really slowly, and that meant that all the fun stuff was at the end. It wasn't really until the 3rd stage that I started to feel challenged in any way, and things started to get a little bit more interesting.
Also, later in the game, you've obtained more CreaVures to switch between, so you're thinking about which of their abilities you'll be able to utilise to navigate the forest terrain. This was fun and engaging, but it took too long to get to that point, Hex.
Yeah, I mean, if the game was longer, I guess you could forgive the slower start, but here it felt like it was over just as it started to get good. It's not an expensive game by any means, but I would have been happy to pay a little bit more money just for more game. That said, it is worth playing because although the concept is fairly simple at the start, the game environment is just beautiful, and with each new character, you feel compelled to finish it.
I thought the music complemented the art and design of the game just perfectly. It was soft and magical, and it was perfect for exploring the forest and chasing those harder-to-reach balls of light. Also, the CreaVures colouring would change in each level to reflect the changing environment around you, which was a nice touch.
I thought so too. I did notice a few level design issues here and there, like a tree in the foreground obscuring your vision, for example, but for the most part, it's a fairly smooth experience. I thought it was great that while you could only ever have 2 CreaVures on your screen at once, you could switch between any of the 5 at checkpoints once you'd obtained them. Which was your favourite CreaVure, Darren?
While I admire Zappy's ability to manipulate electricity, I think my favourite was Rolly. I like the way she curled into a little ball, not unlike Sonic the Hedgehog, to bowl her way through the underground tunnels. What about you, Hex?
Oh, I don't think I could decide. Glidey was really cool because being able to lift other CreaVures was a really nifty ability. And I loved Pokey, the way he trundles along, it was so cute. But I think if pressed, I'd have to say Bitey. I loved his long tail, and he was the most agile for moving through the environment, I think. So Darren, final verdict?
I thought the controls were simple but effective, and combining the CreaVures abilities, interesting gameplay. I only wish they'd employed some of the more complex mechanics earlier on in the game. So I'm giving it 6.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Well, I think it's a wonderful romp through a stunning environment and well priced given the length. But I agree with you, Darren, it just needed more of that challenge earlier on. That level with the hollowed out tree and the swamp monster remains my favourite because it was just such a break from format, and it would have been cool to have a lot more of that. So I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I wonder what's keeping Bajo. Hope he hasn't got himself caught in another force field. I've set a few more around the place. Don't be surprised if you get trapped in one. Just for security purposes. You know.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
So, now you've both been in my Darren cave. What did you think?
It was damp and smelly. Next week, gamers, we finally bring you that promised review of LEGO Ninjago.
Finally.
Well, Darren, maybe we would do it sooner if someone hadn't locked us in their Darren cave all day so they could go out there and do what they think is singing. It really sounds like a dead toaster.
You're just jealous of my dulcet tones.
Now, a few weeks ago, you may remember we asked for volunteers to be beta testers on a new game, Alternator. 2,000 of you applied, but sadly, we only had room for 60. Thanks, Darren.
You're welcome.
Those gamers are hard at work as we speak, playing Alternator and recording their thoughts and feelings, as well as any bugs they may have encountered in the game.
Yes, so a big thank you to all the Alternator beta testers, and we'll all be able to play that game pretty soon. Until next week, gamers, may all your save points save correctly. Bajo out.
Hex out.
Darren out. I'm not kidding though, you are jealous, aren't you, Bajo?
I am. I don't know
I
how
can
you
sing
reach those...
any note lower than you can.
And you can go so high. I'm naturally high.
Oh.
What if you tried to harmonise?
Okay, ready?
I'm sorry I asked.
It's beautiful, perfect.